Welcome to the Superheroes Everyday podcast. I'm Danny Horn. Thank you for joining us. Superheroes Everyday is a comedy blog about the history of superhero movies, starting with Superman the movie in 1978 and telling the story of how superhero blockbusters became the world's most efficient way to painlessly separate money from the public and then give it to entirely the wrong people. On the blog, I'm writing about the movies in release order, but here on the podcast, we'll be covering pivotal moments in superhero movie history. Today, it is Morbin time, as we watch the 2022 bloodstruck blockbuster, Morbius. Now, expecting you to listen to an entire conversation about Morbius in one sitting is kind of a big ask, so I'm using the Sid Fields 3-act structure to break up the episode. So this is Act 1 of Morbius, and then I'll be releasing Act 2 and Act 3 later on in the week. And now I want to introduce my special guest, TV writer, audio producer, Joe Lidster. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Danny. I'm really happy you made me watch that film.
It's going to be fun. Joe, we know each other from my previous blog, Dark Shadows Every Day, where I was writing about the 1960s vampire soap opera Dark Shadows, and you produced the Dark Shadows audio dramas from Big Finish, and you've also worked on Doctor Who-related shows. I think you wrote for Torchwood, and you wrote for Sarah Jane Adventures, and you've produced and written some Doctor Who audios.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And yeah, we met through Dark Shadows because you did the amazing Dark Shadows Everyday blog, which I quote to people. I now use, I often do get asked to do little lectures at colleges and uni about writing, and I always use your 3 rules for introducing a new character.
Yeah,
that's my go-to 3 rules for introducing a new character now. So
that's fantastic.
No, I've your blog has made me seem cleverer than I am. So I'm very happy.
Excellent. Well, so I wanted to, we became friends while I was working on that blog. I wanted to have you on the show. And since you've worked on Dark Shadows and Doctor Who, I realized there's a superhero movie that involves both vampires and the 11th Doctor. So that seemed like the obvious choice. You have things to say on both of those subjects, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. So I'm just going to do a little backstory for this movie to explain to you kind of how did this happen? How did Morbius happen? Sony Pictures, all the way back in 2000, they bought the film rights from Marvel for Spider-Man and all of the associated characters. They produced the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire, and that was a huge success. And it spun out into 2 sequels that were also very successful, a 2-movie reboot with Andrew Garfield. Meanwhile, Marvel started producing their own films in 2008 with other characters. That turned into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then they wanted Spider-Man back. So Marvel worked out a deal with Sony that allowed Marvel to use the Spider-Man characters in their movies and the crossover movies. And so that's working out amazingly well. So Sony is experiencing FOMO. They feel very left out. And so they kind of lashed out and made a Venom movie, which did pretty well. They have dreams of building their own empire called the SSU, which is embarrassing, the Sony Spider-Man universe, using villains and secondary characters and not actually Spider-Man himself, which is an intriguing idea that nobody asked for. Morbius the Living Vampire is this tragic anti-hero who first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man in 1971. So he is part of the Spider-Man package, and now they're trying to make a Morbius movie.
But without Spider-Man?
Without Spider-Man, yep.
Is this film not part of the MCU then?
It is not. It is part of the SSU. Yeah.
Because I haven't watched any of the MCU. I've got no real interest in them. I love the 70s Superman films. I love the 80s Batman films. And then all the clips I see of MCU stuff just seem to be somebody flying up above a pavement and then smashing down and smashing a pavement. And that just seems to be what happens a lot. So the only thing I've watched is WandaVision. So I just assumed this was part of the MCU, but no, it's the SSU. I mean, that's a bit like if Hitler had won the war, isn't it?
I know.
If Hitler had won the war, we'd be living in the SS universe.
Yes, yeah. Let's run the numbers on Morbius and see how this all went. There were 6 superhero movies in 2022. Morbius was the not successful one. Just looking at the US box office, like number 3 for the year was Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Number 4, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Number 7 was The Batman. Number 8, Thor, Love and Thunder. Number 10, Black Adam. So that's 5 superhero movies all ended up in the top 10 last year. Morbius came in at number 25, which was not the plan. It did okay on its opening weekend. It made $39 million, which was a little lower than they expected. But then it dropped like crazy on the second weekend and only made 10 million, which was a 74% drop and the worst of all time for a superhero blockbuster. That was because of the terrible reviews, basically. It got 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is one of the worst ratings that a superhero movie has ever had. And then over the spring, there's kind of like a lot of pranks and memes on the internet. People found it funny to like write reviews of Morbius as if they really liked it and talked about like things that happened in the movie that didn't actually happen and said like, oh, it was so great when Batman showed up. One of those said, I really loved it when he said it's Morbin time, which is a little spoof on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I don't know if that means anything to you.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay, but so it's Morbin time became this huge like meme that people were talking about for a while. So Sony was actually hoping, because it's being talked about on Twitter, that maybe people want to watch the movie. And so they kind of rebranded it as being ironic, and they put it out in theaters again for a weekend. It did not work. They made $300,000 on that weekend, and they were like, okay, we got it. Like, finally, Sony is reading the room. And so they pulled it. And so basically the movie bombed twice in a row, which is very sad for them. All right, let's do Act 1. Film starts in a Costa Rican rainforest, as naturally it would. That's where you have to be. There's going to be like a lot of backstory coming up. And obviously the first order of business is to find out, where did the main character get his enormous collection of bats? We've got a helicopter. Out comes Michael Morbius, who's this like long-haired, sad sack trenchcoat doctor. He's got a debilitating blood disease that apparently nobody cares about curing except for him.
Well, it doesn't even have a name.
It doesn't. Nobody's working on it. Nobody else cares. So what do you think of Jared Leto in the part?
I think he's trying in the film.
He's a good-looking man.
He's very good looking. He gets quite ripped as well, because I think he's a bit scrawnier before.
Yeah.
Then he gets a bit ripped when he becomes a vampire. But yeah, no, I think he's sort of doing his best. But yeah, it was just...
I think like the obvious word to use is intense, meaning like he makes a lot of eye contact and he doesn't smile that much, and he just looks exhausted all the time. And I think that's what intense means.
I think it's quite nice, because I think to me it seemed like all the main actors were in different films, judging by their performances. So that was fun.
Right.
Whenever they were together on screen. I think bless him for trying. You know, he seemed to be committed to facing this unnamed blood virus.
He's here in the rainforest to go up to a cave and just catch as many vampire bats as he possibly can. Take them back to America, which Costa Rica, I imagine, is thrilled about, because they already have a whole bunch of vampire doctors, and the last thing they need is another one. So sure, like, take all the bats you want. So Michael emerges from this helicopter, piloted by little baby coward men who are all worried that they're going to be killed by the enormous flock of killer bats that are about to like billow out of that cave. He's a spooky looking man with a big black cloak, and he walks with the help of 2 canes, which is a lot of canes. And they set up a big bat trap at the mouth of the cave. I don't know where you get one of those, but this one works really well. He pays the helicopter pilot for the machete that he's going to use to draw some blood. I don't know.
Good Lord. I mean, I was just about that bit, where we're going. You talk first. I'm going to start on the wine in a minute.
All right, the helicopter pilot. I'm so glad that the machete, it's a very small detail. I'm really glad it registered with you, because that means we are on the same page about this movie. Yeah, he gets there, and the helicopter pilot is like, oh, we got to leave before dark, because he's scared of vampire bats.
Arrive earlier in the day then. Plan ahead.
It did take a minute for them to get there, yeah. And so he says, well, I'm going to leave. You just need to pay me. And so Michael just pulls money out of his pocket. And he's like, here, you take it. And also, let me have that machete you've got. And he takes the machete and he cuts his hand, and he puts his own hand blood up against the trap to get the bats to come. And it's like, what were you planning to use if the helicopter pilot didn't happen to have a machete on him?
Right. I mean, yeah, 2 things. Number one, I always find that grim anyway. It's just unnecessary. And number 2, it's like, as I discovered, when me watching this scene, I assumed Michael Morbius was some kind of vigilante, I don't know, off the books kind of guy. Turns out he's a proper doctor scientist man. Well, surely he's got access to blood. He could just take a blood bag. He's got a big coat. He's got room in his pockets for cash for the pilot, and he could fit a blood bag in another pocket. Just take that and get that to the bats.
And we know from later scenes that his blood sucks. Like specifically, his blood is like the worst blood there is.
Unnamed blood disease.
Yeah, he can't even keep it in his body, but apparently the bats love it. So
Love it.
here come this series of bats. I imagine some of them get caught in the trap, but it's kind of hard to tell. They're mostly just like shooting out of the cave in a huge swarm. There's only one quantity of bats that there are in this film, which is too many bats. So they just come and come and come. And that's where the bats come from. Next up, I have a question for you. Maybe you figured this out. The next flashback, to give us backstory, it takes place in Greece. And it says 25 years earlier in Greece. Do you have any idea why this is in Greece?
No, there's a reason.
The kids, I have no idea. The kids are American.
Because he's American.
He's American, and Milo's British.
I don't know. The doctor seemed sort of British stroke American. I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, it's like transatlantic. Yeah.
So no, I don't know why they were in Greece. It was very pretty. So
it is pretty for the minute that you see it. Location in this movie, this is kind of your first clue that location is going to be a problem, which it is. It's going to come up a lot. Why are things in the places where they are? But here's little Michael Morbius as a young man in a hospital for morose children with quasi-life-threatening illnesses. He's got one of those rare debilitating blood diseases where it doesn't actually kill you, but your blood just kind of sucks. And you have to get an oil change 3 times a day and hang out with doctors a lot. They talk about how they're going to die immediately, and then they just don't. They bring in another little kid whose name is not Milo, but Michael apparently calls every kid Milo.
That was baffling. I assumed that was something from the comics. So I don't know what that's meant to mean.
Milo's got the same shitty illness. They instantly become best friends. The kids who go to school across the street at Greek school, they're very mean. And they kind of like look up at the window and call them freaks. And Michael says, we're like the original Spartans. We are the few against the many. And the movie seems to find this very profound. We're going to hear that a lot. That's going to come up. Michael's real smart. And so the doctors send him to New York to a school for gifted children who are kind of a lot. And he leaves Milo a letter saying goodbye. And the letter blows out the window. And Milo kind of staggers out of the hospital to pick it up. And he gets bullied by a bunch of mean kids. And now the wine has begun. I'm very pleased about that.
Wine has begun.
Excellent.
Well, but then we also have lots of punching during the.
Oh yeah, do you want to talk about
bullying? Well, I liked the punch sound effect. I'm a young boy hitting another young boy, and the sound we make is. What I did appreciate, especially, was that Dr. Nicholas has been shopping, and he's not only got to carry a bag like a normal person. He's a character in a film, so he's got bread in a paper bag.
He has like a baguette. Yeah.
It helps reestablish Greece because it's very European. Yeah. Sadly, we're no longer in Europe anymore, so we're no longer able to carry bread around in paper bags. But yeah, no, I appreciated that attention to detail.
And now we're in Sweden. Little Michael Morbius, he's all grown up, and now he's Jared Leto again. He is in Sweden, and he's receiving the Nobel Prize for developing artificial blood, which is blue. They say it saved more lives than penicillin, which does not seem likely.
Amazing.
Yeah, but there it is. Apparently, artificial blood just saves everyone.
What lives is it saving? Because it's not saving his life.
I don't know. People who want blue blood.
It's not saving the many sufferers of unnamed blood disease that makes you walk on crutches.
No.
But it's saving
people who don't have regular blood around and they need some.
Well, maybe in this universe, lots of people have the unnamed blood disease, so therefore they can't do blood transfusions. So they need other blood for people who get into car accidents and need.
Oh yeah, he really. You're right. They're getting 3 times a day. They're getting all new blood. That's a lot of.
That's a lot of blood.
Yeah, you're really using up all the blood in the whole world. You're right. Yes. So that is why he needs to develop. It's actually only polite of him to develop artificial blood, which is kind of pale blue.
So antifreeze.
Yeah. Yes, it does look like that. Then we get into the major question of the movie, which is, where the fuck are we now? We see Michael. He's back at work. He is fussing over a cute little girl in a hospital bed. So this is clearly a children's hospital for children with serious conditions. And he's got a very sweet relationship with this little girl. This is also Horizon Labs, which is apparently a company where Michael has an enormous secret laboratory where he keeps a huge glass cylinder of bats that nobody knows about. And you would think that these are different places, because they're very different from each other. But apparently, if you're standing at the door of the little girl's room, you can see straight into Michael's lab. So it's just across the hall.
Yeah, the lab is in the hospital, isn't it?
Maybe, yes. Is this a hospital? Is another question.
Well, if not, then is he kidnapping
I
children?
don't know. The problem that comes up is like Anna is sick and should be in a hospital, and so she's here. And then down the hall, once Martine gets injured, she's going to be in a hospital bed. But in no other way did they ever act like this is a hospital with staff, because Michael just does all these secret things in his secret lab, and there's like a glass wall which everybody can see into. It's very confusing.
Yes, because his bats aren't very well hidden.
No, they're really not. He says at one point privacy screens, but I don't know what that means. It does not appear to be something that helps. Turns out Michael rejected the Nobel Prize. He went all the way to Sweden and put on a tuxedo and showed up at the ceremony. And he waited until his very nice introduction so that he could get up and tell him to go to hell, which does not seem like an efficient system, especially for somebody who finds it difficult to walk.
I was going to say that he is dedicated to humiliating Sweden. He really has it in for Sweden because he can barely walk across the room. Because he's so, well, I mean, obviously he's basically still really stunningly attractive, but has slightly pale skin.
Yes.
So he's got Hollywood illness, but he can barely walk across the room.
You would imagine they would keep unnecessary travel to a minimum. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I hope that this is another writing trick that you're teaching all the students, that you have to establish at the top of a movie that the main character is cool.
Yes.
It's a several step process. And here he's got a good head start because he wears black all the time, but that doesn't get us all the way there. So typically what you do is you have them like drive really fast and listen to loud rock music, and they're late for an important appointment. They're always late, to establish that they're kind of rebellious and interesting. They don't do any of that. So instead what they do is that he disappoints the King of Sweden.
I'm just going to point out, I'm wearing black and was late to our Zoom.
That's how we know.
I'm not saying I'm cool, but, the rules have been established. Yeah, I don't know why he hates Sweden.
Nobody knows.
Greta Thunberg won't be happy because I bet he flew. Private jet, probably.
Yeah, well, it's not clear kind of where his money apparently is coming from Milo, whose money is coming from God. Yeah. He's just unaccountably rich. Over in Michael's lab with Martine. So Martine is the other character in this movie. There's really only three.
Let me stop you right there.
Go ahead.
She's the other what? Character? She's the other character.
I'm sorry. Was that the wrong word?
I think that's possibly too big a word.
It's generous.
To describe that walking doll in makeup.
Right.
Yeah, carry on. Martine. Dr. Martine Bancroft.
Bancroft, yes.
Because there's a brilliant scene later where he's talking to Matt Smith and he goes, "How's Martine?" "Dr. Bancroft." And I was like, good, thank you.
For establishing this character's name.
Because I was confused by all the many other female characters in the films, which one he might have been referring to.
Right, yes.
It's not Anna in bed, is it?
No. Yeah, it's not the little sick girl. So here she is. So she is supposed to be Michael's partner in this at his lab. She's one of those like brilliant doctors in superhero movies, and because they're women, they're just brilliant kind of like as an assistant to a dude. That's how brilliant she is. And apparently she doesn't know what he's working on because it's a secret.
So brilliant.
Yes.
She doesn't notice a big glass box of bats.
It just occurred to her. So in this scene, we see the moment when she finds out. She reveals that she knows that Michael is trying to remix human DNA with bat DNA. He is tampering in God's domain. He says, "I don't know what you're talking about." So she walks over to the huge glass pillar, which apparently has a privacy screen on it. And she taps in a code, which takes the privacy screen away. And we can see that it is full of bats.
Did those bats fly back from
those are the ones
Colombia or Costa Rica?
He says, "Friends I brought back from Costa Rica." So these are the bats that he trapped in the first scene. He has somehow brought them here, constructed this enormous. If folks are listening to this who have not seen the movie, it is not possible for us to describe how large this bat cylinder is and how many bats he has inside of it. constantly flying around in a fury.
The bats never sit down.
No, they have no place to perch. They have nothing to eat. It is a bare glass cylinder, and they just kind of like endlessly swarm in it. And anytime you go into the lab, they're just in the background, just banging around in this column. It's fantastic. I don't know how he got them all in this building and constructed this bat tank without anybody noticing, including the person that he works with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't know what the building is.
True. This could be anywhere.
We know it as a reception area we see later on, and it's got a very long corridor, very long
corridor, yes.
As we see later on.
Very few staff.
We do see staff because we see Nurse Sutton.
Yes.
Single mother of twin daughters.
We do.
Remember that detail?
You really did take notes. This is fantastic.
I did take note. I went to the wiki page and saw that there's an event on the page. The murder of Kristen Sutton, apparently. She's called Kristen.
Oh, really? All right.
But yeah, so she works. So there are other staff there.
Yeah. Well, one, and that number is going down. Martine is very judgmental about what Michael's doing. She says that he could lose his license, although I don't think that there is a license for mad science. So he just like takes a dead bat. He wants to demonstrate what he's doing. So he takes a dead bat out of a little freezer, and he explains that vampire bats have saliva with unique anticoagulants, which is exactly what he needs. So what Michael wants is to splice bat DNA into his own DNA so that he will start producing these anticoagulants. And I'm pretty sure that's not what gene splicing means.
I'm no expert.
I feel like gene splicing means something else. I don't think you can just like inject yourself with bat DNA, which is what he does. But if this is unconvincing to you, they do have a little machine that does spinning tubes. They have a little centrifuge, which is okay. So like you can't do movie science unless you're spinning tubes around. So whenever things get kind of far-fetched in the movie, they just do spinning tubes again, which I really like. Martine's not happy. Michael says that this bullshit is what science is all about. He says, we have to push the boundaries and take the risks. Without that, there is no science, no medicine, no breakthroughs at all. So that's why he's going to stick a bat up his nose. So he takes a white mouse and he injects it with bat juice. And this is very tense. There's a lot of tense music. They watch very closely, and the mouse instantly falls over and dies, as mice do. It's sad.
Yeah.
And then in comes a nurse who is named, what is it? Kristen? Nurse Sutton comes in.
Kristen.
Yes, across the hall.
Very nice, sharp haircut. Very lovely hair.
She does, yeah. She runs in and she says, it's Anna, Dr. Morbius, right across the hall. It's Anna. She clearly sees the huge bat cylinder. It's right in her field of view. She has no reaction to it at all. Nobody cares.
She's got a lot of mind. You've got to remember, she is a single mother of twin girls.
That's true. She has a lot to think about.
She has a lot of characterization on her mind.
Yeah, that's right.
But she's a mother of twin girls, not just one.
Twins. And here Anna is. She's having real trouble. Her kidneys are shutting down, and Michael says we have to induce coma before she has a stroke, so he's doing that. I think it's just a distraction so that Martine can turn around and look out the door, and she can see right across the hall into Michael's secret lab, and the mouse has gotten up again. The mouse is alive.
Hooray.
I feel like what that means is he's about to push bat stuff into this little girl. Anna's getting some bats. And then this is where we get Matt Smith. Hooray. Michael goes and visits his friend Milo, who is now all grown up, and he's the 11th Doctor. Matt Smith has done other things, but not in my life. I don't know if he's anything but 11th Doctor to you.
I've seen him in a quite sexy thing where he's in the war with he's playing a gay. But no, I haven't seen him in much else. But yeah, certainly in this, it was nice to see the 11th Doctor again. It
was. And he has very 11th Doctor mannerisms. He doesn't, that might just come with when you get Matt Smith. That's what he's equipped with.
But I think, to be fair, I suppose with these sort of films, presumably the movie producers see Doctor Who, right, and they say, Matt Smith, we want you. He's in one of the Terminator films, isn't he? Because he got super ripped for the Terminator film. I remember the picture. So presumably they are saying to him, what we want is quirky, mad, because this film isn't mainstream. This is an indie. This is ironic. This is, so we don't want all American hunks. We've got Jared Leto doing the acting.
Right. All dressed in black. Yeah.
All dressed in black. It's like the Matrix from 400 years ago. It's like, so we need you. We want you playing quirky British.
Right.
So that's what Matt Smith does.
Yeah. He is being cared for by the same doctor from Greece
who presumably has left Greece.
I guess so. He lives in New York now. They all live in New York.
Well, you sort of don't get the impression that in that scene necessarily that he doesn't live with Matt Smith.
It does.
So
yes.
I think there could be a dark backstory there. Why does Nicholas send Mike Morbius to New York? Is it because he wants young Matt Smith for himself?
Potentially.
And that they're in a relationship as adults?
If so, he still got him.
Yeah, he's moved him over there.
Well, and there is, potentially at some point a very mild gay subtext. I think when he's talking about, in the walk, which actually they're about to do. Is there anything else I have to say about this? No. Now they're taking a walk. Let's do the walk. Where Milo asks about Martine, and as you said, Michael
Dr.
says
Bancroft,
Dr. Bancroft.
That's the one.
And Milo says, like, well, I haven't seen you for a while, and I was wondering if she was keeping you busy. And it's like this very momentary, unexplored gay subtext about, like, is he jealous of Martine's place in Michael's life? Not that
Martine's not that close. Martine doesn't know about the bats.
Doesn't know about the bats.
Martine didn't even know he was going to Sweden to tell the King of Sweden to fuck off.
That's true.
Because she's surprised that he's done it. So he's not that close to Martine.
So they go to the park, and now we're in the park. Michael says that he is close to finding a cure, bat-wise. There is a cure. It is highly experimental, ethically questionable, very, very, very expensive, and not exactly legal. And to cap it off, it has to be done in international waters.
International waters.
Which maybe you can explain to me, but I do not understand the legality of the international waters.
I mean, I don't know if you get caught in international waters, do you not get arrested? Can you not be arrested?
That doesn't seem... He's 13 nautical miles off of Long Island.
I don't know. I mean, basically, I was just very glad when the caption came up going international
waters. I know. So
like that's a place.
So the baffling thing for me, the idea, as I understand it, is that what he wants to do is squish up some bat parts, extract DNA from it using spinning tubes, do something imaginary with it, and then inject it into his spine. All of which he can accomplish pretty much anywhere in his secret lab where nobody can see inside.
Where his best mate Martine hasn't even noticed about the bats.
Why does that have to be?
I think people want boys to have this unnamed blood disease.
That is possible.
They just don't want there to be a cure.
These specific ones, they're like, you are a pain in the ass, and if this slows you down at all from doing the insane shit you're gonna do. Milo says we're the original Spartans again, the few against the many.
Who are you against?
It sounds like they're being oppressed. They tried to give you the Nobel Prize, and you said no.
They sent you to a really, really nice hospital in Greece.
I don't know. They're very oppressed. But if you're going to do this impossibly stupid thing that you're doing, they might as well do it on a boat. International waters.
International waters.
They've
also, let's also remember, that Matt Smith, what's he called? Lucian.
Milo.
Milo. Why did he call Milo and Michael? Why would you do that?
And Martine. I know.
And Martine. So Milo, we're the oppressed.
Yeah.
What you, apparently straight, cis, white, rich man. Please tell me more about the oppression you face as you live in your giant apartment.
With your shitty blood disease.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you have a live-in...
All you have to do is change your blood 3 times a day.
Live-in doctor. I mean, I can see how it's inconvenient. But I wouldn't say you're oppressed specifically. Nobody's against you except your own goddamn bloodstream. That seems like an inside job. Michael and Martine.
Sorry, carry on. We're in international waters.
We're international waters. Michael and Martine.
Giant boat.
That
lab
filled with
mercenaries.
They have set up. I love the mercenaries. They've set up all of this equipment. They've taken a ton of equipment from wherever it was to wherever it is on this boat. They're doing more movie science, and they're tapping on computers, and they say, "Success! We did it!" And now they synthesize a thing. And so she's doing medicine on him, and so he takes his shirt off, and his body is thin and terrible, and you can see his spine showing out the back. I believe that what I read was that this was actually Jared Leto, like, starved himself to get down to that, and then bulked himself up in order to do the rest of the movie.
I mean, have you read the script, Jared?
I know. It does seem like a lot of work. She does an injection in his spine, and then she buckles him down to a table, and then he starts to shake really violently. At which point, we go downstairs to the galley, I guess. Is this the kitchen? And there's mercenaries sitting around playing cards. Explain mercenaries to me.
I love them. I love them. Hi, we're mercenaries in the film, so we're going to have a bottle of beer each and play poker. Imagine, like, if you're a mercenary who didn't play poker or like beer. You never see a mercenary like I've got a lovely glass of Rioja right now. Right. You never see a mercenary with a glass of Rioja, do you?
No, they got to drink beer. They got to.
They are interesting people in themselves.
I have to imagine.
I think that's
it's some Merc life we ought to know about. And they're taking an interest.
What's good also, by the way, is that Matt Smith couldn't just buy a boat, being an incredibly rich man.
Yeah,
he couldn't just buy a boat with a normal crew.
Yeah, no,
we had to get a bit edgy.
Yeah, we had to bring these mercenaries in
because he's edgy.
And there's a lot of them. There's like 8 of them, and they have machine guns.
Yeah.
What are they Are they waiting for pirates? Like, what are they expecting to happen here, right off the coast of Long Island? 8 dudes with machine guns. Very complicated. The random dude with a machine gun comes upstairs where Martine is.
I'm going to go and check on what's happening upstairs. Why? Why do you give a shit? You're being
no
paid.
Idea.
Just stay in your galley and play poker.
And he comes in and he's extremely rude to his boss, to Martine, where he calls her nurse, and he says, "Well, you're just the help, like all of us." What?
Which, to be fair, is accurate.
It is, but what is he talking about?
That is her function in the film.
It's just why and like
I don't understand. Yes, I mean the nurse bit. I was just like, I imagine even mercenaries have moved on from that now because it's not the 70s, and I suspect mercenaries these days are a bit more.
They're a bit more with it. Yeah.
A bit more with it, a bit more woke. I think mercenaries are probably quite woke right now.
Yeah.
They've probably got solar panels on that boat. They're doing their best.
Do you think that mercenaries ever go to movies and they're like, "Hey, why are we the bad guys all the time?" Like, that's got to be discouraging for them.
And presumably they have been paid for by Matt Smith.
Yeah.
So why is Matt... This is like...
No.
Maybe Matt Smith hired them a really nice cruise liner with a really nice crew.
Yeah.
Jared went all the way onto the boat, went up to the nice captain, went up to him and went, "Oi, fuck off," like he did to the King of Sweden.
You're right.
It's the only explanation.
I flipped off the King of Sweden. You think I'm going to deal with you? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want a nice boat. I want mercenaries who'll call up Martine and nurse. So can you time travel and get me mercenaries from the 60s, please?
There's a noise. Martine and the mercenary look over. Michael's gone. He's not on the chair anymore. They go towards this chamber, and it's very mysterious. And he is on the ceiling and hissing.
Yeah.
And the mercenary calls on his little radio, "Everybody come down to the lab." Why? Why does he do this? Everyone is going to do things that don't make sense to do.
He was losing at poker, so he's like, "This is the only way. I'm not having any of them win."
He shoots, and Michael just leaps on him. And so this is our first time seeing the vampire effects. Not that clearly yet, but you got like this.
I was going to say, you say the word "seeing," I struggled.
Yeah, no, everything is dark and everything is kind of CGI squiggled. And he leaps on the guy and drinks his blood and bites him and everything. And then he turns to look at Martine, and his face is now like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Very Buffy vampire.
Huge nails. There's an alarm sound. I don't know why there's an alarm sound, who they're trying to alarm. He leaps around, destroying things. Martine is upset. All these guys with guns come in. She gets pushed over and kind of she falls like a girl falls.
It's my favorite bit. She's such a girl.
She gets jostled.
She gets a slight nudge.
Yeah.
It's
falls all the way over, bangs her head, knocked unconscious. And so Michael is just going to leap around all over the place. He breaks out of his little chamber. There's a little bit of slow motion as he lets a bullet go by. They love that kind of thing.
Very, very cool. I loved that in 1999.
I did too. It's nostalgic. So he just like leaps around and he kills some dudes. Yeah. From here, he's there. He's every fucking where. Do you want to talk for a second about horror? How to put together a horror scene and whether you think this is an appropriate one?
And how this wasn't allowed.
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, I think the problem you always have with something like this is, why does he become a monster?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why does he
You mean like, is there something in the character? Is there a conflict in the story
Why
that
is
does
he
this?
now killing people?
Right.
So if it's a bloodlust type thing,
Mhm.
he's got bloodlust.
Right.
Then why isn't he killing someone and we spend time watching him suck all the blood and it's like, I need the blood to survive.
Right.
It's like, no, because he's bat DNA spliced into his DNA. He's now this long-nailed CGI effect,
Yeah.
gravity defying thing who brutally wipes out a bunch of people except the girl.
Right.
I know that these guys are going to die. And they've, like you say, they've got guns, which means I know they're going to try and use guns. So I know it's all going to go horribly wrong.
Right. And so then we're going to have scenes of them where they're like
There's no horror.
wandering through the hall and like looking around with their machine gun. But Michael has become the perfect killing machine. All of a sudden, he's actually really, really good at it. He has gone from
really good
scrawny little mad scientist to like Terminator level human disassembly machine. He can move like a bat smoke monster. So there's like machine gun fire, bangity bang, and he just kind of kills everybody.
But it's not scary in any way, shape, or form.
No.
There is no horror.
Yeah.
The problem for me is that actually, no, they're just victims. They're just victims. We've done that in the Dark Shadows audios. We've very deliberately had a uber overplayed, overwritten couple who appeared in every episode of thing, and then they get killed off.
Right.
And the horror isn't them getting killed off. The horror is that our good guy, well, our tormented monster in this case, does it.
Yeah.
And it's the horror of him doing it. That's the horror, because you have victims in horror movies. With this, it should be the horror that Jared's doing it. It should be the absolute horror that, oh my God, he's killed someone.
Right.
Imagine you spent your whole life devoting your life to fixing little girls called Anna, and suddenly you've killed someone. But
you're not seeing him transforming from the nice doctor into this.
Yeah, I'm not seeing him transform. I'm not seeing him struggle over it. Later on, he's a bit sad at times when he remembers to be.
So this isn't horror. This is just like action.
The horror would be if it was a gradual change and it was him and that mercenary, and that mercenary was trapped in that room, and the mercenary is begging for his life, and Jared's going, I don't want to kill you. I'm not like this. I'm a good guy. I just wanted to try and save myself. Yeah. Oh my God, do you know what it's like to live with unnamed blood disease? The trauma.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I can't stop myself. And he attacks him. And then you can do, if you want, the big CGI monster attack where he kills everybody else. Because by then you're like, oh my God, I've gone on this journey with you.
Right.
How horrible. You've basically become a serial killer in the space of minutes. That's where the horror isn't there. The horror isn't there because I don't care about the people he's killing, but more importantly, I don't care about him. And I certainly don't care about Martine.
Then we get the shirtless scene. This is the big scene as far as I'm concerned.
Very happy with that scene.
The only two questions that matter in superhero movies is how much money did it make and how hot are the people? This is what we watch it for.
Yeah.
So he slowly turns back into Michael and he wakes up. Everybody's dead. And then he peels off his shirt.
For important plot reasons.
Looks at himself in a very convenient full-length mirror that's there in the hallway.
The mercenaries had it fitted.
And he looks great. He's got muscles and all kinds of things. He looks very hot. He's done a lot of work to get to here.
Yeah.
But it pisses me off because he looks amazing and they only show it to us for 28 seconds.
It's so bizarre.
It's so
bizarre. It's like,
I don't understand the economics of this.
It's got that very odd thing where he does look really hot. But for me, it hasn't got like, I think there is this like thing of while Jared looks really hot when he's ripped and Matt Smith looks really hot while he's ripped. It's like, it's a bit, that's just kind of what everybody on TV and films looks like now. Everybody's really ripped.
Yeah.
I know basically you've gone to the gym a lot because you can afford to, because you can afford a personal trainer who will do all this for you.
Right.
There's nothing inherently sexy about that. It's nice to look at.
And he instantly like grabs a coat and buttons it all the way up to his neck, which I don't understand. At least give me something to look at. At least give me, he's the first interesting thing. First thing worth looking at is that. And now it's gone. And it's gone for the whole rest of the movie. He goes back to the scene of the crime. Martine's on the floor. Dead guys are on the floor. He looks at security footage somehow and sees why, by the way,
because they've got a lot of CCTV, the mercenaries.
Yeah, security footage on this boat.
The next time we go and rape and pillage a country, let's make sure we've got CCTV footage.
Yeah, so everybody can identify us. Yeah, but he sees his recent behavior. He does not seem to like it.
No.
He does have a moment where he throws up because he's just killed 8 people. 8 people is a lot of people to kill. So he decides he is gonna make a Mayday call to the Coast Guard. We're 13 nautical miles off the coast of Long Island, and then another boat comes. Then we get the other characters in the movie, these two ghoulish FBI agents, Agent Stroud and Agent Rodriguez. There's the serious one and the sarcastic one.
Classic.
And so they're talking about kind of they've got all these dead mercenaries. They've got one survivor who's Martine. A male made a Mayday call, wiped all the security footage. They find the little origami bat that he made, which doesn't. I mean, yes. It doesn't do anything.
I don't know if he's an orphan. I don't know if he's gay or straight. I don't know if he's another. All I know about him is he likes origami.
Yeah. And so Michael apparently, he wiped all the security footage and then jumped into the water and swam all the way to back to Long Island, which would mean he's left all of these computers and notes and samples and mice and bats and whatever the hell it is that he brought with him. There's nothing that can get traced back to him left in this place. Like there were all these computers, which all have software that's registered to somebody.
Yeah, because I was going to say, because he doesn't go on the run, does he? He just goes back to work at hospital / secret lab.
The two big questions about the movie, one is location. Like, why do things take place in the places where they take place? And then the other one is, why doesn't evidence work the way that evidence is supposed to work? Those are the two things. Martine is in the hospital. And who walks into the hospital but Mr. Michael Morbius with a black hoodie on and the hood up? Yeah. Like, he wouldn't be recognized by his dozens of coworkers. He's a recognizable dude. He has a very handsome face, but this is a guy that who is always walking on two crutches. And right now he's just walking in.
Yeah.
He's got a hoodie on. A hoodie is the best defense. And Martine's unconscious. And he holds her hand and he tells her that he's sorry, which is only polite.
Yeah.
And with Michael Morbius discovering a brand new blood-soaked world of adventure and regret, that is the end of Act 1 of Morbius. I will be releasing Act 2 later this week. And here's what's coming up. This scene should be happening in a white tank top. The rules are very clear about this. When you've got an enjoying your power scene, white tank top.
I do it all the time. Pop into your local supermarket and just, you pick up a few tins of beans and you just suddenly go, initiate lockdown! And watch people panic. It's great.
And they do. They tell Michael you're coming with us, which is not true. He is exhibiting all the hallmarks of a guy who is not coming with people.
Because I'm getting angry. Because I'm stopping finding it funny. And what I'm remembering is the fact that you've made me sick through this film. And one day I will come to America and find you.
Because you've been looking for a cure for your condition your whole life, right? I mean, you've pretty much tried everything. And Rodriguez says, crazy experiments. Maybe on a boat? So stay tuned for that. Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you.
I know the act breaks sometimes come at you all of a sudden. Joe, I'll meet you right back here for Act 2 of Morbius.
I'm going to open another bottle.
Fantastic. On the Superheroes Everyday Podcast. Thanks for listening.
Best not to be outside when school gets out. Like the original Spartans. We are the few against the many.